And so the number one thing any business can do is get really good at sales, because if not, they're going to go by the wayside. And so this is where the craft is we're human species. God's created us to have community and connected with people. So whatever tools and mechanisms to have these one-on-ones and connections is going to be the source of whatever that solution in the future will be.
Welcome to the Small Business Breakthrough Series, where each week we will be interviewing a number of guests from the industry of small businesses, helping small businesses. Today, we're going to be going through and learning why it is so important for even coaches to have a coach. We're talking with Nathan Newberry of Help Equip, who specializes in teaching sales to coaches. And being a coach myself, I can tell you, I can sell easily in person, but when it comes to virtual sales, it's a different ball game, including some new fun stuff that him and I have both been learning together, Sell by Chat. Nathan, it's great to have you on the show today.
Yeah, appreciate you inviting me here, Jason. Super glad to be here in front of your audience here.
Hey, can you give us a snapshot of what your business is and the major outcomes you get for your clients?
Totally. Like, I help coaches with sales. Bottom line, that's the first thing that starts off with any business is sales. And with that whole Venn diagram that I have with our method is you need to have the proper leads to be able to even sell someone. And you need to actually have the right back end to support and be able to help those people that you coach, right? So that's what I do. I help coaches really scale and grow, and they need the right sales process and the right funnel and the right lead generation to make that happen.
Nathan, I know you talk about helping coaches, but do you have a specific niche of coaches that you work with, or just any business coach or fitness coach? Like, do you have a certain industry that you're after?
Yeah, the business side doesn't change. It doesn't matter what type of business owner is, from fitness to mental health, from people with handling addictions or looking at like marriage counseling. Everybody needs for some similar funnels, and they need to have a similar process. What I do with coaches, just because I've been in the marketing and sales world for a very long time, I know that there's a different way that you need to be able to sell your process that's a little bit different than being any other type of salesperson out there. And so there's a framework that I go through that I've learned, that I've taught so many people with, to really be able to have that process instilled. I can go over more of that if you'd like me to, Jason, but that is what we do. Is we look at all the mechanisms working hand in hand, because there's some common pitfalls that most businesses fall into.
Yeah, that actually leads really well into the next question, which starts to talk about like coaching and coaching coaches. It's a pretty busy space, especially for those of us in it.
Oh yeah.
What sets your business apart from from others in the space?
Yeah, so like I used to work a lot with nonprofits. Like that's what I started with. After I got my degree and a bachelor degree in theology, I worked with nonprofits. So I was a pastor for years, and then I went into my wife and I went and did some missions, and we came back, and I'm like, what do we do now? I'm a theologian and I don't know what to do. Right. I was pastoring churches and stuff like that. And I was like, what do I need to do? I just like, all right, I'm done talking to people. I want to work with my hands. And so I started building, brick and mortar business. I had a fencing company that turned into construction business, and I just hated it. But I learned all the marketing side of stuff. I was the only person that had a website, did all the marketing stuff. And then from there, all my network of churches and nonprofits and other businesses started seeing my online presence, and they're like, Nathan, I need help with marketing. And so I started my marketing business, and I did that for 9 years before I sold it. And then because marketing and sales go hand in hand so much, a lot of it is integrated very heavily. I started doing the high ticket sales. I was the just because and the reason why I did so well with all that is because I sincerely cared for people, which was different. Like if you think of all the bad movies that sales gets a bad rap with, like The Wolf of Wall Street or The Boiler Room, where they just like hated people and they just like it was all about themselves. All I did with all the industries that I was the top salesperson was is all I cared was is that person. And if I can sincerely help someone or not salesperson or sell people like what they didn't need, that was a genuine enough to really help me feel like I kept my integrity, but also help people. And so for a very long time, I've been doing that. And so now shifting into the high ticket space, the last few years, I just been helping coaches build their offer. Like I had multiple calls now from just even referral from, our network that we're a part of, Jason, as well as other just people are like, I need help with this. I'm really good at my craft with being training, people, or I'm really good at like coaching people in marriage or in this or that and the other, but I'm just not good with knowing my process. Like I get on a call and it's like loosely, they don't know how to deal with objections. They don't know how to have a framework of it, where they have a limited amount of people that come to them. And so they're almost desperate. Like for instance, I had a guy that I know within our network. And he was like, Nathan, like I'm having to go get a job because my coaching business is struggling. Like I got kids, I got a family, I'm just not making enough. Like, what do I do? I have some marketing experience. Do I do a marketing agency or do I do a coaching business? How do I get more eyeballs? And so what I found out is his sales is off, right? He's like there, he's not, he has a high ticket offer, but it's not even that much. Like people should be buying it. So his sales is off, and then his leads are not, he doesn't have enough leads. And so even like you had talked about the sell by chat, it only works if you have a lot of volume. If you don't have a lot of volume, the lead sell by chat doesn't work. I mean, you would want to use that in leading as like a setting position to get people on the phone to have conversations, to really do more one-on-one, really be able to have that conversation. So there's some things I've learned in marketing for over a decade, and then the sales process, how that all links together for any coach to be successful.
Wow, that is unpack even more inside of that in a minute. But talking about these coaches and even businesses in general, what we find in the industries, small business owners like to throw it up, whether that's a website, a discussion with somebody, and then just hope people come to them because their idea is that
Mm-hmm.
amazing. Well, I hate to break it to everybody listening, and including break it to myself a little bit in the conversation, is our ideas aren't that great. And it takes a little bit of convincing to be able to get the conversations, but it can be done. We've seen it be done. Nathan sounds like an amazing resource for this. Um, I want to
Or
dive in.
even helping with the small business, if I would, Jason, like every business, if it's a brick or mortar company or a coaching company, everybody's looking for two things. They're looking for leads and revenue, right? And so a small business, whatever they're creating, needs to have those two things in mind. How are we serving people with that in mind? Like I talk with a lot of like companies, even in marketing agencies, where they're like, hey, I threw up my website, but nobody's visiting the website because there's not enough traffic. But even there's, it's you're generalist, right? And what is the most important is online presence, especially since COVID. Everybody is right now going online. Nobody knows their neighbors, so they go out there, and if they need a plumber, for instance, with small business, they don't realize that their neighbor's a plumber, but they'll still Google needing a plumber. And then they'll have another person that drives in 20 miles away to come in and service it. It's just people are clueless. And so everybody is online. And so even the churches, nonprofits, any small business, nobody's going to the 20th page to find a plumber. Okay. So you need to have an online presence, bottom line, but you also need marketing in that. So in the business sense, regardless if you're an online business or not, you need to have lead generation. I hope that maybe serves your audience in a generalist way too, of like if you're a central brick and mortar company or an online company, you need a good online presence with a lead flow that's properly built, that's curated for whatever that business needs. And they need to define who they're helping and how they're helping them. Otherwise, you're a generalist and nobody will break through.
Absolutely. That is so critical because I know in my last company that I owned, it was we prided ourselves heavily in being able to have referral based marketing and get those referrals because we had people fight for us on social media. You get somebody like, who tell me about this provider, and we would be listed hundreds of times in the comments of the referral part of it, and that goes for any small business. It works if you're serving your clients well. Hey, real quick, did you know that most small businesses don't actually achieve their breakthrough? And it's not because you don't care, it's all because you're trying to do it alone. That's why I created the Momentum community is to help you change that. I want to see you achieve the breakthrough that you've been waiting for. It's where we committed entrepreneurs come and get focused, get accountable, and finally build a business and life that you are meant for. If you want to learn more, click the link in the description below and enjoy the rest of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's been interesting. We talked about COVID, and we're now 4 years past that. And it was such a trying time for everybody inside of business. Your
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs either had great success or horrible failures. And as we like to call it, we learn from our mistakes, those that are working forward and going. But if we think about in the last 4 years, all of the change, what do you see the next 5 or even 10 years looking like? And how are you going to stay ahead of the curve?
I think the big one that everybody's talking about, but they don't know how to equip themselves with, is the need for AI. And not saying and being fearful of it, which I think a lot of people are, of like fearing it, or just unclear how to use it, is it's not going to go away. It's going to be needed, but it's not going to be alone doing everything. It's going to be the technician working with AI. So whatever someone's doing, they need to pair it and connect it with it. And so it's not going away. It's whatever you need to do, you need to figure out how to use it very effectively for your trade. So Elon Musk came out with a thing saying in the next few years, everybody's going to have a robot in their house. Look, I hate doing my laundry, so I'm okay with a robot doing some of that stuff. So I'd probably be the first in line to do it. That just because I hate some of those normal things that I would have to do it. But again, it comes alongside it. They're not going to do everything for me, right? They're not going to just play with my kids for me. I still have to do some of that, right? The one thing though that I think is going to stand out, and this is a questionable thing for sure, but I think people can see through robot type of things and they can see the gaping hole in it. And we're personable people by nature. And so the number one thing any business can do is get really good at sales, because if not, they're going to go by the wayside. And so this is where the craft is we're human species. God's created us to have community and connected with people. So whatever tools and mechanisms to have these one-on-ones and connections is going to be the source of whatever that solution in the future will be. And so whatever service or coaching or whatever offer, it's going to be side by side with that. So need to use it, as well as being able to be very personable with that. And then another other thing that's important to that is everybody needs to build their own personal brand. Number one thing, because everybody's online these days, and you got to build a personal brand. That was what I would suggest.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just saw a new LinkedIn article come out here, and we're recording this in September, but it came out and it talked about how you don't get to hide behind the big brands. Even CEOs of major corporations are having to come out and become more of a personal brand for the company
Mm-hmm.
to be able to
Yeah.
start to get and continue to progress into this new age of technology. Nathan, it has been such a great conversation and getting to learn more about your styling and how you do business. You ready to have a little bit of fun and do the lightning round?
Sure. Hit me.
Don't worry, they're not bad. Coffee or tea?
Ooh, I've been stinting on both. I was a huge matcha kick for a little bit, but with my new personal trainer I have, he's been introducing more with coffees in the stint that I am in. So I love both of them uh,
Okay.
equally. Yeah,
Cats or dogs?
dogs. That's
Dog.
an easy one.
If you could grab only one weapon or item during a zombie apocalypse, what would it be?
Theorized out. I mean, I'd say gun for sure.
Okay. Favorite quote or phrase that you think about often?
Um, Jonathan Edwards, I think, went back and talked about this, and I really liked it. And I resonate with early on. He says, "Make as much money as you can, give as much money as you can, and save as much money." I feel like I could I see a lot of that through history. Andrew Carnegie did that when he passed away. They found in his desk. He's on the first half of my year is what he wrote down as goals. First half of the year or my life, I'm going to make as much money as I can and make a lot of money in the second half. Of time I want to give it away. And for the longest time doing nonprofit, I always thought that I was never going to make money for the service of others. But I realized after being in more of the public sector of stuff, I needed to make as much money as I can, build as much influence as I can, so I can give as much as I can. So I think that one resonates in my whole life. The one that I've been really leaning on most is a quote from James Clear. James Clear, who says, "I do not rise to the levels of your goals, but fall to the levels of your systems." And I realized that we all have set points in a life. And so this is where I'm always trying to strive to get better, be better, push ahead. And that allows you to have more influence and helping others.
Yeah, that is a good one. We've been definitely following into the James Clear quote a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite movie or streaming series that you love?
For the longest time, I used to watch a lot of TV shows and movies to cope with numbness of where I was at in life. And I use it as a coping mechanism rather than like doing it. So I don't do a whole lot of it now just because I have fun doing other stuff. Um, a B-side movie I liked that I don't think people like, but it's a Steve Carell movie. It's called Dan in Real Life.
Okay. What one book that has influenced your life the most?
The Bible. That's number one. And separate from that, there's so many good books. I'm constantly reading a lot of books. I'd say Bible. That's the number one. The second one I read every year. It's a really unique one. It's called Pilgrim's Progress.
Okay.
Everybody gets to read that one. That one's always a good one I read every year. Um, yeah. Um,
What's the biggest obstacle that you've had to overcome and one lesson you learned from it?
I've had so many failures and challenges. One lesson. I've had to learn the hard way about like building businesses. Um, you can grow really fast without having the infrastructure right. And so it's really important to get mentorship and coaching so you don't have to learn by the wrong. The difference between knowledge and wisdom is knowledge is by knowing something in theory, wisdom is applied knowledge. So I hope everybody, even the Bible talks about like get wisdom, get knowledge, and everything you get knowledge and wisdom because if you can buy someone else's experience and wisdom from their poor mistakes, it helps you buy back all those things. So, like, I've had so many business failures that I almost got to bankruptcy many, many times and had to eat crow for years and almost like ruin my marriage at times for that. So, it's just, it's get mentorship because they're going to help you know even what questions to ask because you just don't know what you don't know when starting a business. So you need to have someone else's input to say, hey, there's some common pitfalls coming up. So get mentorship, get help. And I've invested probably close to $100,000 in personal development over the years to learn it the right way because I've had some really strong struggles at the very beginning of my entrepreneurship roller coaster.
Yeah, it was one of the first things I did when the last company that I bought, when I came in and had 16 employees all of a sudden to take care of and went, okay, how do I go through this? And hired myself a coach and went through it. So definitely get yourself even if it's a mentor, and don't overthink getting a mentor. Sometimes just finding somebody that's maybe a little bit older with you that's willing to sit down and have coffee with you once a month, that's as simple as it can go. And there's various different resources out there too for doing it. But hiring a coach will help in any fashion that you do. And the reason is, as we've learned here recently, the transformation happens at the transaction, coming from Dan Martell. And that dollar spent on coaching helps you with your accountability around actually making the transformation that you need to make as a business owner to be able to get to go and make more success. Nathan, it has been such a great conversation today. We've learned all kinds of new things and new ways, and love your approach. So if any of the listeners out there want to get a hold of you, what is the best way for them to reach out?
Well, I have a gift for everybody, if that's okay with you. Like most of the
Absolutely.
time, people need a sales script, and so I can help anybody that with that. If they DM me JP in my personal Instagram account, I'll give them that script just for you, Jason. Uh, all the listeners here that have it, if they type in the word JP and find me on Instagram, my handle is my name, right? Nathan Newberry official. That's my handle. I mean, I don't know if Jason will be able to list it, but if he lists it, you can always find me on Instagram. I'm on everywhere too. I'll give that free resource as a playbook that you have for all script you need. Yeah,
Okay, that is amazing. And for a free handout, go to Instagram at Nathan Newberry official is the handle, and just send him a direct message, put in JP, and I'll have all that information in the show notes at the end of this call. Nathan, has been such a pleasure
fantastic.
to have you on the call. Until next time.